All right, today's guest is one of the coolest guys that I've met since living down here, and you may have known him as the lead singer of Hounds. He's also a former flatbread maker extraordinaire at VB's Coffee, so Conor's known him for a bit. All-around good dude and had a lot of cool stories about life as a musician and an entrepreneur, and just some of the formative events of his life leading up to today. Take a listen, everybody. We're so proud to have him on the show. It's Jordan Slone.
We're sitting here with Jordan Slone of Hounds Sounds on Instagram at Hounds Sounds. Jordan's one of my good buddies that I actually met because he worked for me back when you were, how old?
Oh my gosh, I started when I was 18.
18 years old.
18
You
years old.
were making flatbreads in the kitchen back in our old business, which was a chocolate bar.
Me and Thomas Burleson, man.
Is that how you heard of us? Was Tom?
Tom and I grew up together since like 5th grade. And because I moved to Cottleville when I was in 5th grade from Maryland Heights. Changed schools. He was one of the first kids that I met. He and I were both just as weird then as we are now. And it was a match made in heaven. We didn't actually really get close until probably high school. But he started working here. I was working, where was I working? I was doing construction for my neighbor.
It's quite the change, dude.
I hated it. I mean, I love them, but I would get up at like 5 a.m, drive to the city somewhere I don't know. It was just like everything was just, it was too much work for me. So
and in comparison to flatbread making, you're like, it's bearable.
Flatbread making right next to my house with another guy that I knew was going to be as ridiculous as I was the whole time.
Was Tom in the kitchen back then still?
He was, and he was an OCD nightmare. Every day I came back in, there was a new way of organizing everything because he had a master plan about how to streamline flatbread production.
Is Tom now a scrum master at some like Fortune 500 or something?
He will be one day, but no, he does woodworking and he's a bartender. So
that's awesome.
That's his thing.
Yeah, Tom was with us for probably, what do you think? If Chocolate Bar was there for 8 years, he probably was there for 6 of it.
6 of it, and it was only, he came back too because he was there at the end of it.
Yep.
I mean, he only went. It was like he was here long enough that he was like, I don't even think it was grass is greener on the other side. I think that he just got bored and then maybe mad at Lisa once and then was like, all right, I'm gonna go somewhere else. Went there and then he was like, wow, there's so many rules. I hate somewhere else.
I can tell you the first time I remember meeting you, because Lisa hired you.
Yeah.
I'm assuming, since she hired all the bar and the kitchen people.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember it was probably like a Thursday night or something like that, and we were downstairs and I was, I don't know, doing whatever it is I was doing, making chocolate or something.
Oh yeah.
And I remember you were just walking around telling me that you were in a band.
Yeah,
and
man.
Meanwhile, all these flatbreads were piling up downstairs. And I was like,
yes,
bro, I'd love to hear about your band, but after we get these 15 flatbreads upstairs.
That's right. You got some chicken Alfredo pizzas to make, like right now.
And
So
we've gone.
your passion wasn't spreading sauce. And
No, man, it was definitely not spreading sauce.
It wasn't BB's flatbreads.
You know what's funny is
They were made with love.
in retrospect now, that's not even your passion. You're like, I got rid of that whole section of the business. I'm out, man.
I don't think anyone at BB's was super passionate about making flatbreads, and that was part of the issue, was that we were involved in a few things that we had to do for our business because we needed people to buy more alcohol,
Sure.
and so we had to, and we
Make sure
weren't
they
built
could
with a
eat.
professional kitchen, so I was like, okay, I guess we can order some flatbreads from Companion, and we made our own sauce and we put our own spin on it, and we did it as well as we could, but we were never built out to be a kitchen, and so no one was passionate about the flatbread, so we were all just like, it's your problem.
We had some beautiful flatbreads though, man.
We did.
Yeah, we did a great job.
You were
It's because Tom was a flatbread artist
He was.
before he
was.
transitioned to a bar artist.
It's true. It's true.
But we all got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, the medium changes, but the intent was the same. So.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, because I'm not even sure I really know this. We became pretty good friends.
Yeah.
Maybe it's probably started during that time with you and Tom and another one of our buddies, Russ Hendricks, who's now, a cop in St. Charles City, and I hope will get me out of a ticket if I ever need him. But we became really close, the four of us, like getting together and hanging out after that and getting to know each other, and that kind of developed later on down the road.
Well, sure.
And I'm not sure I've ever really heard the story of who you were pre-BB Chocolate Bar, pre-Hound Sounds. Like, where did you go to school? Were you homeschooled? What was family life like? What made you at least who you were up until that 18 point?
Sure. I mean, I'm from Kentucky. I was born in Kentucky. My family moved here when I was 5. And we just spent a lot of time out in kind of the farmland of Kentucky. My grandparents had a farm in Lincoln County. We spent a lot of time over the summers.
What part of the state is that in?
Oh my gosh, I couldn't tell you.
Okay.
It's somewhere near the Kentucky.
Somewhere near the Kentucky part. No, it's the part where when you're driving through, you see a house and then not another house for like 5 miles.
So most of Kentucky.
Most of Kentucky, yeah.
Paducah, Lexington, Louisville. You're out. Everybody else, you're fair game.
Well, we're from. We've got family that's in Lexington. I was born in. My family was in Richmond, and then. My grandparents just lived in Lincoln. And
what moved you here?
My dad had work, so it was like he was a teacher in Richmond, Kentucky, and then he moved here for an IT position. Did that for 20 years, and I just grew up in this area.
So you said 5 you moved here?
Yeah.
Do you think that like that? You know, we're gonna unpack all the music stuff. And
sure.
I mean, but you know, early childhood developmental years. I mean, any of that Kentucky wear off in the sounds that you're trying now, or
somewhat in the sounds, but it's more in I think the writing style because I grew up. I didn't really listen to music until I didn't actively listen to music until I was 14 or 15 years old. My parents weren't musical. They didn't my dad did band in middle school, high school, but he was a baseball player. My mom doesn't do music at all, and they kept us not intentionally from music, but they didn't know it was out there. And I remember sneaking into my parents' car with my mom's keys and turning on the radio just to listen to Nelly. And be like, what is this? What is rap music?
Oh, the classics, Nelly.
Yeah, and so it was things like that, and I didn't know who the Beatles were, or Pink Floyd, or Led Zeppelin, or The Doors, or the Beach Boys, or so many of my influences until I was 16, 17 years old.
Was it because they were keeping that from you for other reasons, or was it just that they didn't listen to music?
They didn't listen to music. And when I would bring it up, even my dad would be like, oh, I love this song. Oh, I love this. But it wasn't something he introduced to us naturally. It was just kind of like, yeah, music is there.
That's so foreign to me that I'm having a tough time grasping it because for us, music's on pretty much constantly at night when it's family time, even through dinner.
Sure.
We have music playing, TV off. It was quite the opposite when I was growing up because it was TV on, dinner is in front of the TV. We didn't do the table thing at all, but even my daughter now, 4.5 knows how to operate a record player, and I'm that's great. And we played the Beatles for her for the first time I think a month ago, and she's like,
did her mind melt?
Well, so we introduced her. I played Sgt. Pepper's.
Yeah.
Because that's a pretty good intro. Fun, it's fun, exciting. And then I played Come Together, and she's like, who's this? And I was like, it's the Beatles. And she's just you can see the what?
The confusion.
Yeah, because it's such varying different things.
Oh my gosh! Between Please Please Me and Abbey Road, the Beatles have given us 7 different bands.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
How do you reinvent yourself that many times in such a short span? It's
drugs
crazy.
And boredom and time and money, probably.
I'd like to try that. That formula sounds great.
Well, we should get some drugs, money, and time.
Yeah, that's about all we're lacking.
I'm currently short on all 3. So let's talk about this. When did you actually realize that music was something that was more than something you want to listen to?
I was playing backyard football with some friends of mine when I was in 8th grade.
You were a stud athlete, correct?
I played baseball and basketball growing up, and we were on select teams and did all the stuff. It was never long distance traveling, but we had a lot of fun playing baseball, and I did that growing up. And so, I mean, sure.
We kind of talked about you thought that was going to be your career path.
I did.
I remember a long time ago we were sitting down in one of our conversations, and you thought I'm going to be an athlete. That's what you thought.
I really thought that baseball was going to be the thing for a long time because that was my dad's dream. So I was sort of living that for him. He was always my coach. The people that I was playing with, we grew up together. It just felt like that was what my life was just it revolved around baseball. Then in the fall we played fall ball, and then we played basketball because that was the sport that was available in the wintertime. And then we played more baseball. And that was it because I hated soccer. I hated it so much. And I don't even know why. but I just didn't like it.
So where did it turn? You go from...
So like the backyard, I was playing backyard football with just some kids up the street from me. There was a hole covered by grass in the ground, and I dislocated my knee, and I was in an immobilizer for 6 months. And it was horrible. I hated it so much. And I remember even when it happened, the guys that I was with were like, "No, you're fine. Nothing happened. You're being a baby." Like this whole thing. I ended up hobbling from the top of like their street down my street in my cul-de-sac to my house. And my parents, like I'd left my younger brothers there, and my now drummer and my middle brother had duct taped my youngest brother to a wall while I was gone. And my mom's so pissed, and she's looking at me, she's like, "You're fine, we have people coming over that are going to be talking to us." I don't even remember what it was about, I was too young to even care. But I was in trouble while my knee was, from my perspective, completely broken. I had a leg that was never going to walk again. And my brothers, one of them's got like a cut on his face because they cut him out with a kitchen knife. And it was a whole mess.
They cut him out from the duct tape on the wall with a kitchen knife and cut his face.
Permanently scarred because you dislocated.
Because I just wasn't home because I was trying to walk home and couldn't. It was a whole thing.
This is like a movie thing. One day you're gonna wake up, he's standing over you, and he's like, "It's time for me to get your scar." And
oh my gosh! Well, that wouldn't be me. That'll be the other brother. But I mean, he's got his coming. I broke my knee or dislocated it. I was in an immobilizer, and my parents got us Guitar Hero. That's where I learned. This is the weirdest thing, but it's where I learned so much of my music. I remember listening to Radiohead and The Killers, and listening to Motorhead and Queens of the Stone Age, and just stuff so many different kinds of music at once. There's some Joan Jett on there, and there's Bad Religion, and there's just all these bands that before I would have never had access to because my parents don't care about that stuff, and it wasn't something that they were seeking out for us. I had listened to Reliant K, Michael W. Smith, and Stephen Curtis Chapman.
So those are Christian. Those are pretty Christian.
Very Christian bands. And then also like Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson, George Jones, Loretta Lynn.
Quite the opposite.
Tammy Wynette. Yeah, it's like this country music, old country music stuff, and then Christian music happening at that time. It was really all I had access to. And
the greatest thing about that old country music, though, is I think that is about as Christian as music could possibly get. I have this theory that they talk about all this heartbreak and pain, and but a lot of that country music is about love. It's about loss. It's about heartache. It's about pain. And so, although they're talking about boozing and women, they're also always
talking about life.
Generally talking about life. Church, religion, Jesus, like old, not necessarily all the new stuff, but when I listen to George Jones, when I listen to any of those old guys, this beauty and this pain that reminds me of when you're talking to someone that has literally felt everything, and then they can turn that into something that has meaning to you and I. So if you listen to one of those old country songs and it can bring you to tears, and it's not because you're sad that they lost their dog or their car or their wife or whatever it may be, they're divorced 3 times. The beauty in that music is that they actually, to me, put that pain out there in a vulnerable way. And when you're listening to that, you're just like, it hits you hard.
There's something very real about that. And I think that as we were talking about influences, like from not growing up, but being from Kentucky in the earlier years of my life and having that influence in my family, the storytelling within country music is the big thing that I think is a takeaway for our stuff. Is I've loved storytelling just because of the kind of music that we were exposed to.
Well, I think that, I'm listening to that, and I listen to a lot of the old country still, and outlaw country today is starting to lend itself back to that. And so, you're talking about that, and it just so happens I gave you one of his shirts, and I'm wearing one of his shirts. Tyler Childers, who's from Eastern Kentucky, probably one of the best storytelling country artists out there right now, and definitely on the come up. I mean, nobody knew who he was 2 years ago, and he was just at the Grammys the other night. So, but it helps when Sturgill Simpson gets behind producing your records and stuff. But the guy's just a natural storyteller, and I think it's catching on because for so long, a lot of artists, it was verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, song over, and just fill the verses with words. Don't even necessarily have to make sense when you look at how they're written, where now people are like, man, that's a hell of a story, and I want to get back to listening to those types of songs.
Well, when I think about music, especially from that time, and think about how it's, from my perspective, happened, rock and roll music, and this is going to be something that may get me in trouble, but it's the safest music out there right now. Pop music is doing what country music was doing back in George Jones' era, where they're more exposing of just like, we don't really care if you like or don't like what I'm saying. This is the unfiltered story of what's happening, even though some of it, I mean, I think pop music gets a really bad rap because so much of it feels like you're getting bubblegum nonsense. There is that, and that's being sold heavily. But you look at like Post Malone, he cares none. He cares absolutely none. Lana Del Rey cares none. And it's some of the best, honest music that's out there, in my opinion, because it doesn't feel like they're trying to sell me something.
There's great artists though too that are on the sell you everything bandwagon too.
Sure.
So like an example that I always think about is like, man, that Miley Cyrus has a great set of vocals on her, and like, but the hype machine behind Miley Cyrus kind of almost ruins it for me. Like when I'm listening to her stuff, I'm like, oh man, can you just let the song speak for itself?
Is that really like a hype machine behind her, or is that us translating a young artist that became really big really fast and had a lot of things come at her and is acting like an 18-year-old with $1 billion? And like we're all sitting there in harsh judgment going, oh, she should be this, she should be that. When I listen to Miley Cyrus, and I never watched Hannah Montana, I don't know any of that stuff. Yeah, but I know when I listen to Miley Cyrus, I feel like she's brilliant. And I don't know how to explain that. I don't know how to tell you why, but I feel like she is a brilliant artist, and I don't understand why people would discount her talent or her ability just because, you know, I don't know, she's 22 with $1 billion and likes to, you know, post selfies with her boobs hanging out. Like who? I mean.
Well, when you look at like what she's done and the longevity of her career, that's the answer. I mean, there's plenty of artists that come up and they're here for a second, and then it's like, okay, what happened to that song? Well, it's gone. That band's gone now, or this artist is gone now. She's been around since the TV show. She's still relevant.
Well, it's not.
So she's winning. I mean, we can't really.
You can't discredit that. Yeah, I mean, and to your point, Connor, if you didn't see the visuals and be bombarded by the social media and you just heard the audio, you'd be like, this chick belts. I mean, no different than like Lana Del Rey, and that might actually be the discerning factor. She's not super active on social media and in the TMZ and stuff like that, whereas like Miley's Miley, and she's grown up in front of everybody's eyes. So
only have a perception of her because she was a child star and because she hit so big so fast, and she's Billy Ray Cyrus's daughter. Like we have these, I think it happens with a lot of artists and a lot of people in general. We see you as this thing that we have a belief that we understand who you are, and we let that cloud our judgment of how brilliant artistically you actually could be if we took all that out of the way. You know, It's the same thing when someone tells me, I absolutely hate country, and all they've done is listen to the last 10 years of country, and they've listened to the artists that are played on 92.3. They're not all bad, but if that is all you understand about country music and country, the way it's performed, then it's probably not even worth us having a conversation because you don't understand what we're talking about.
Well, and it's interesting too because like on that topic, country music is Loretta Lynn, Hank Williams, Luke Bryant. And like then you've got, like, you know what I mean? Like the jump is like, whoa, what happened? But it's still considered country music. And and then Chris Stapleton too is also considered country music. These are different worlds, but technically, so if you don't have like the time to invest into what is the umbrella of country music, it doesn't really, you can't be in that conversation.
Well, and what it does is it ruins a genre eventually.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I mean, you look at rock for the longest time, you know, and don't take this the wrong way, but when it comes to radio airplay, which a lot of people judge a whole genre based off of what's the radio playing, rock music's dead when it comes to a radio situation because they just want the one hit, you know, get in, get out. Where I almost feel like the rock genre of artists have woken up and said, I really don't need you anymore. And
Well, I mean, I say that as I'm like getting ready for radio campaigns, but I mean, at the same time, like I don't even feel like what we're doing in the rock format, with the labels, with the label we're working with the management we're working with, and with the promoters we're working with, they've come to showcases and they've seen us perform and they've listened to the record that we're getting ready to release. And they go, you guys are multi-genre. You can go to multiple markets. And I think that's key for rock bands, especially lately, because pop is going to continue to do what pop does. And those will be they're considered popular music. They're going to be on radio. But the rock stuff, like I was saying earlier, it's too often too safe, and everyone's trying to be like, no, this is absolutely not pop music. It's so rock that it's like, okay, well, yeah, but that already happened, man. Going back to the Beatles, the reason that they were cool isn't because they sounded like the same band from their first record to their last record. They were so cool because they changed with their interest and their time.
Yeah.
So, they evolved.
Yeah, you have to.
And I would say, from when I've listened to your music and I've come to your shows and I've seen you, I'm not sure that I would even go, hey, that's only rock. I think there's so many influences in the little bit that I've been around for your career up to this point that I think what you do, like most artists that I enjoy listening to, I wouldn't say it's purely rock or alternative. There's a lot of different things happening in there, and I think that maybe what makes people attracted to it is that it's not just that one thing. You guys aren't limited by that label of we're only going to do this. We're gonna headbang. We're gonna, be Pearl Jam, whatever it is that someone associates with being a rock band. I'm not, in my opinion, from what I've listened to you guys, I feel like there's a lot more happening there.
And we want there to continue to be more happening. I mean, even one of the cool things that we've done most recently, and I know we talking about this more later, but we worked on this last single that we did, and when I did it, it was a very pop, all keyboard, guitar and vocal demo that sounded just like a pop song. But going backwards, and after presenting the song to the band, each of them taking their instruments and figuring out how to manipulate their own musical setup to create as close as they can the sounds that we wanted for this song, took it from being this, all right, here's a pop, like lo-fi keyboard song. Now it's coming through Mellotrons and Hammonds, and it's coming through a real kit instead of coming through a digital drum set. And we've got actual bass guitar going with wahs and fuzz and phasers and reverb and just like fun stuff. And then on my setup, using like reverse tape delays and having layers of guitar sounds happening and multiple different reverb types. That before we were like, how are we going to make this song work? But after we reworked it as what we are, we took what we've already done as a band and said, okay, well, that already happened. Let's take these sounds and do something totally different with the same gear. And that kind of expansion for us is what makes it interesting still.
So, how old were you when you blew out your knee?
13.
13.
Yeah.
You discovered
video game
Motorhead. Video game guitar playing, essentially.
That's a good age to discover.
And you were completely immobile, I'm assuming, for quite a while, and that allowed you to play this video game and get familiar with it and learn what you're doing. At what point did you, through that, realize that something that I really respect and that I'm not sure that I am ever capable of doing is being able to take an idea and write music. Like, that is something that I don't know that I have any ability to ever, even if I wanted to really train myself to do well at it. So how do you go from playing Guitar Hero at 13 in your parents' house with a broken knee to going, oh, let's have some discipline and get better each year? How did that even develop?
Through a long and grueling process that could have been done much quicker if I think myself or my parents had any idea how to start music stuff. My parents have always been so supportive of whatever we wanted to do, but it was a territory that they'd never been a part of before. So when I figured out I wanted to do guitar, I got my first acoustic guitar from my uncle. And I also got my first electric guitar from my uncle. He gave me this Alvarez guitar, which is a company from St. Louis. It's really cool, and it was a discontinued model, so it still makes me feel very special that I have one that like people can't buy anymore. That's just something for me. But the electric guitar was this old '79 Les Paul, and I took these things, completely disrespected them, and didn't take care of them at all. But it was like just playing loud, noisy guitar through amps that I didn't know how to use, that my parents let me do for 3 or 4 years, making bad punk rock music with my brother and my drummer, who still works with us. And it was just, there's no rhyme or reason. I don't know, we just did it. We just made noise and we're loud.
This is one of those deals where you were like, I enjoy this.
Yeah.
I enjoy the people that it puts around me.
Sure.
I have fun with it. And then out of that, how did you turn into a career or a job? How did you take it from a hobby? Because that's one thing that I think a lot of people have hobbies, and there's a big difference between a hobby that you do because you enjoy it versus a hobby that you turn into your full-time profession. Now you're a professional, and this is no longer hanging out.
So my brother and I were doing. We were in different bands when we first started. I didn't really even have a band. I was just picked up to play bass for a couple of gigs for a band called Someday But Summer that was from town. And then my brother had started a band called In the Crawl Space with 3 of his close friends at the time. They kicked out 2 of their members right before they had a battle of the bands they were playing. And they needed a bass guitarist. For that gig, my drummer was like, you gotta ask Jordan. And my brother Logan was like, absolutely not. I don't want my older brother in the band. I kind of hate him. And
Brotherly love.
Yeah, he just was not about it. I guess Logan Moeller convinced Logan Slone, we should do this. We should have him in the group just for the show. Let's just see how it goes. We ended up doing it, and we got advanced to the next round of the Battle of the Bands. So we started rehearsing more. After, I think it was even before that next show, my brother saw how bad I was at bass guitar and was like, no, you can't do this. Pick up the regular guitar because you don't have any sense of rhythm. You have to, you can't do this if you don't have rhythm. And so he became the bass player and I became the guitar player, and we started co-vocaling or co-leading the group vocally, and it was a 3-piece.
And now you're a 4-piece, right?
Very
Hounds.
newly, yeah. We've only been a 4-piece this year.
So
not even all of this year.
I saw that you guys have got T-shirts that are like Logan, Jordan.
Oh, you've seen the online store. Jack will be so proud.
Yeah.
That's strictly online stuff because we do show limited shirts and then we do online shirts. So the ones you get online, you can't get at the shows. The ones that you get at the shows, you can't get online.
So isn't that crazy? Because 5 years ago even, it would have been almost impossible to get such a small, limited run and make it fiscally responsible for a band. I mean, the business of being a band is a whole other thing to unpack, but you're doing show-specific shirts. This is like Garth Brooks 1994 stuff, you know?
Hey, that's a good person to come after, certainly.
Entertainer of the Year.
Yeah.
You know, no big deal.
He's got a little bit of success,
Yeah, he's got a couple albums out too.
He ain't too shabby.
Right.
We actually played him Saturday because my sister-in-law and my sister are huge, or my wife and her sister are huge Garth Brooks fans. Her whole family is.
Yeah.
And so we were sitting around, getting ready to have Sunday dinner, which happened to be on Saturday because we had a bunch of basketball games on Sunday. And they're like, and I was putting Spotify on the TV so we'd have some background music because I like to have that going while everyone's hanging out, just at a low volume. So we actually pulled up one of Garth Brooks' albums, and they literally sing the thing from the beginning of the song to the end of the song, the entire album. It's, I know Garth Brooks, and I can tell you his hit songs. I couldn't sing them to you, and I don't know that much.
If you don't like his song that summer, we can't be friends. I mean, that's one of those anthems by Garth, man. So.
He's had a tremendous amount of success, so he deserves it.
Rabbit hole. But so you've got these limited run shirts that you guys are making versus the store.
Right.
So that's one aspect of the business. I mean, kind of like the podcast and the blogging that we talked about in our last episode. We're learning on the fly. What's the learning curve for a band to keep up with all that?
Well, so I think it's similar to business. I was getting a business degree and I didn't finish it. I'll go ahead and put that out there right now. I just did it to start. I did 3 semesters of business school, and the first thing they taught me while I was there, they go, okay, here's your textbook. I was like, sweet. They go, it's brand new, awesome. It's already outdated. What? And so they sell you this $150 textbook. They say all the information here, by the time you finish reading it, even if you finish it this week, it's already changed, man. I don't know. It's happening so fast that you just kind of have to. A really good friend of ours, Chad Nelson, was doing a podcast talking about how they're going about their marketing plan for the company that he's involved in. And he said the biggest thing is people now, there's no way to get them advertisements for 15, 30 seconds that matter anymore. Just putting out consistent, authentic material is the only thing that matters because everyone can smell when it's just phony.
Yeah.
So that's really the learning curve, is just continue to put out things that are authentic. If they're not, people will know and will call you bullshit. That's it. Am I allowed to say that?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine. I think we're allowed like
Okay.
three. I think we're allowed like 3 of them before I have to drop the little E next
Okay,
to the
okay.
description. But
For real?
yeah. There's like that's a whole. See, we're in the
Okay,
business of
yeah.
distribution.
Well,
podcast
we didn't
you
go over
were
rules
gonna put 3
beforehand.
or 4 E's on there because I'm probably gonna drop some
Yeah,
stuff.
okay.
I'm
Yeah.
really having to guard myself.
The last one we were right at 3, and I was like, oh boy. Well, we'll try and pass this.
The little light goes on, and the top of the booth says "Watch it" or something.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
Dude, it reminds me of Howard Stern back in the day. Have you ever like read his books and watched his movie where they talk about like when he was at NBC and he literally just pushed the limit constantly? And all I can remember is his GM at the NBC station, Pig Vomits, what he called him, just sprinting through the hallway at every chance he got to try and stop Howard from doing whatever he did. And meanwhile, the irony of this is it's making hundreds of millions of dollars for NBC. But it's this guy's one job, well, not his only job, but his main job became stopping Howard Stern from throwing baloney at strippers or whatever it is that he was doing purely. And, I've come to understand from doing a lot of research on him because I love Howard Stern. I love what he does. I think he's the greatest thing ever. But a lot of those shticks were really shticks to figure out where that line was and cross it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was in a time when no one was really doing that, and the FCC and the government were involved, which is different now with podcasts and YouTube. You can do all your own media.
Yeah.
But literally, he was just seeing how he could get people to react to something that he was doing versus having a boring conversation and asking you, so when are your 3 press appearances and what's your new album? He actually went somewhere else and he created this entire media. And then he had to go over to XM and, do his whole thing there. And he built that up. And he's, whether you love him or hate him, which it seems like people either love him or hate him.
Yeah.
The dude is a genius. And I personally think, I could.
Or the guy was like the innovator of long form interview. You're right. He pushed the boundary, and where he pushed that boundary to then is like where everybody eventually is now. And he's still at 65, almost 70. He's still pushing boundaries of like, you might not catch on to this now, but in 10 years you're gonna look back and be like, dude was so far ahead of his time, and everybody was just playing catch up behind him. And to think he was making, what did he say? I'm pretty familiar with him too. I think at one point in his career he was making $210 a week.
Oh yeah.
In Detroit with 2 kids, a wife. And he's like, I'm making no money here. What am I gonna do?
Well, you're getting fired every day. Like he talks about kind of like, what I imagine being a traveling musician is like where you are constantly on the verge until you make it big and you really make a statement. You're on this verge of always turning around and having nothing because no one really appreciates you. You're a commodity. You're a warm body until you change that view and you translate it to dollars and you get people to understand what you're doing. Which, I mean, isn't that 90% of anything that we do is you're out there giving people music, in your opinion it's great music, getting people to understand why your music is good and getting them to follow you is 90% of the challenge because there's a million people out there that have done incredible music that never figured out how to evolve it into something other than just great music that no one's ever going to hear.
Yep. I mean, it's so much. I mean, even now with the stuff that we're going through, we have. It's been 13 years now. As of the really, it was like 11 and a half year mark. That's when we found out we were going to get signed. That's when we found out we were going to be working with management. We had people that like when we would say their names to other industry folks, they go, "Oh my gosh, you're working with them." We're like, "I don't know what that means." We're like, "Okay, cool, but awesome. Like, it is awesome? Good. Okay, great. My bank account still reads like warning." So. I mean, we're still living even in that now because a big thing for a band is we got signed, we got the management, we got now we're working on touring agencies and who we're going to be doing stuff with. But if you're not on the road selling merchandise and selling tickets, or if you don't have the product already out and you're doing sync licensing or you're doing like major album sales, which in the age of streaming isn't really a thing anymore. It's just kind of you just don't sell as many CDs. You don't sell albums the same way unless you're actually at shows. So the way that we make money is by putting the product out and being out there. We haven't done that yet. We've been in the legal process, and we've been in the setup process and getting the record done. So all of us are sitting here kind of just spinning our thumbs going like, okay, we're ready to go. Put us on the road for 500 days this year. Right. And like, if you can do it, figure it out. We'll play that many shows.
So the 11 and a half year mark, where you got signed was, I mean, for people that don't know Jordan, you guys had some success with a show run. Were you signed prior to that and that came after, or was the show a catalyst?
The show was the catalyst for sure. I mean, we had other smaller label recognition, and we didn't sign with anybody, but we had a touring agency, and we've had management for a long time, and we've had other smaller indie labels that have been interested. And we almost had one of our, like, the coolest things that happened is we almost had a song that's going to be on this record was almost signed up for a European campaign for Coca-Cola, which we got so close, and then this is the story of the industry, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Like, we were right there, and then it just, okay, not that one, next one. And just continuing to go despite, like, having all these little almosts. We finally got on this TV show called Who Will Rock You? It was really more of an internet show. Because it was, I mean, I say that, but it's like streaming services. That's all it is now. It's not like cable really is the thing that people go to anymore. But we were on Amazon Prime and then all of like the social media stuff, and it was through Topgolf. We ended up winning. It was like a battle of the bands style thing where you do one cover song and then you play original songs against other bands if you get past the cover song.
What cover did you do?
Pretty Woman by Roy Orbison.
Wow.
Yeah. So
nice.
That was what we went with. And we had a number of songs we did in the audition. We did Drive My Car by the Beatles, and we did House of the Rising Sun. We did Be My Baby. It was like a lot of old school tunes that we went for. And they came back, and we almost did Somebody to Love by Jefferson Airplane as well. And the songs that we actually got okayed were so few and far between. We didn't know we were going to be able to play the Roy Orbison song until 3 days before we went to the actual show. And we just had to put it together last minute because they were trying to get the estate figured out because everything has to go
licensing.
Yeah, licensing and all that. And it was a nightmare.
How long of a run was the show? Like from start to finish, from the time that you did round one to the time you were named champion, how long was that?
So the show airs over the course of like 2.5, 3 months. Okay. But we submitted ourselves as like an online presence, and they were like, cool, come to the audition. They had in October, because we submitted in September. In October, we went in, and there were 150 bands or so that went and auditioned live in front of like kind of a panel. They don't say anything to you. You do like a faux interview. Everyone feels super weird the whole time. And then, but they were really kind. I say that, like everyone was really nice to us, but the whole time no one gives you any answers. They're just like, okay, cool, thank you, see you later. And you're like, oh, okay, I hope I did well. I just drove to Nashville for this. I have no money, and I ate half a sandwich today. So, and I remember we were all so stressed out, we just like stopped on our way out of town at like the closest liquor store, and we're like, all right, so this person's driving, everybody else bottoms up. We don't know how this week went, really. We have no idea. Just
I don't know if that's legal in Tennessee. Just because you're from Missouri and that's
it definitely didn't happen in Tennessee.
We did it only in the states that it was legal. Let's be honest.
Only in the states it was legal.
Missouri.
There's a lot of questionable things that have probably happened in the van, but that's neither here nor there. That's not what we're talking about today. We'll get we can get there, but it only happened in the legal states. Whatever happened.
So I know one of the judges Dee Snider.
Yeah, sorry, I get derailed. I was
talking
about all sorts of things, but yeah, we did the audition. We found out we were going to be on the show, and then the actual show recording. There's a week in Vegas. And then there's a week in Nashville. We were the Nashville side because they did bands from all over the country to come in and compete. The Vegas side, they do their week, and then they have their finalist, and then they fly their finalist to the Nashville site, which we do our entire thing there, and then the finale is recorded in Nashville as well. Mm-hmm. So we were only there doing the show for 1 week.
Wow.
That was it. But we had to keep it all a secret for 9 months. Like even after we found out we won, going through some of the legal process of everything, we came home, we're like, oh my God, guys, we won the thing. And everyone's like, everyone that we would tell about it, like, oh my gosh, are your lives totally different? Because it was like $50,000 you guys won, and you got like a record deal, and you got all these things, and it was like almost as if like some of the people we would talk to looked at it, and they're like each individual was handed $50,000. Like, well, no,
We didn't have to
it
pay
was
taxes.
it was
No
taxed
taxes,
in California,
It's not like
and
you
it
gotta
was
pay for all your time and energy and expense and gas and laptops. And
oh yeah,
it's
Well,
all just pure profit, right?
It was all profit. We ended up spending almost all of the money on a little bit of gear, and then we spent it on lawyer fees for the contract because when we won, it was a deal.
You won it, and then you paid the legal.
We did, man. We won the thing, and there was supposed to be like.
Welcome to business. Everyone get into it.
Yeah.
You keep all the money. That's what always happens, guys. Don't be fooled by thinking that, like, you actually get into business, you pay everyone else around you, and you hope to keep a small margin of that for yourself.
Oh, don't even hope. That's just too much. You're just asking for trouble if you're
It's
hoping.
passion project.
Yeah, it really is, but we were. I feel like we were really smart about it. We got linked up with an incredible lawyer through the guy we've done all of our music videos with is Hounds. So this guy JT Ibanez hooked us up with who we're now working with, Owen Slone, and he's amazing. He actually worked with the Roy Orbison estate. He worked with Michael Jackson and like all these people that like as they're like going through his list of like who he works at. I'm like, oh my gosh, he's still working with. I don't know if I can. Oh, it's on his website. I can say these things. I was like, I don't know. What
I'm divulging client privilege.
No, I don't know. I don't know what I'm supposed. I'm not talking about.
And if not, just like drinking in the van, it never happened.
Yeah, it never happened. It never happened. But
Conjecture.
he's working with like legacy artists that like when I'm going through the list, it's like all these names, and I'm like, and Hounds. That's right, baby.
That's right, buddy.
But he's been amazing, and he took our deal from being what was supposed to be like an artist deal to being an actual record deal. So we went, and they were just going to do, I believe, an EP or a couple of singles and release those. We ended up sending our stuff to BMG and starting to talk to them about what we were envisioning as a band, how long we've been a band. They watched us on the show. They came out to a couple of our showcases because we flew out and played the Viper Room in LA, and we went and they came to our Vegas show. They came to our Nashville shows. We went and met with them in the offices, and they, after about 7 months of negotiation, came back with what is potentially a 3-album contract. It's considered like a 3-album option. Yeah. So we've got this first one done, and then from there, like based on how things go, we decide if we want to do another record, and we decide if we want to do another record.
Well, I can tell you from our reach with this podcast, you're probably going to have at least 5 deals.
Hell yeah, man.
Yeah, 5 more record. We're not even sales. Record streaming downloads. So we'll download it, we'll play it.
Amazing.
So let's go back to the Battle of the Bands. Did you win that?
We won it. We won the Battle of the Bands.
Where was this at?
Nashville, Tennessee.
Battle of the Bands was in Nashville. No, I'm talking about the high school.
Way back.
That was here in St. Louis. We
High
played
school, because we
Foo
missed
Bar,
so
baby.
much. It was
Foo
Foo Bar.
The place it's like a miracle that place is still standing and still hosting shows.
Well, they're closing down this year.
Are they really?
The owner bought a place across the street. He's opened up another venue. It's going to be awesome.
That's good.
So,
it's probably time.
Well, I mean, Foo Bar's done. It's been alive for, I don't know, it's like 10 or 15 years or something like that.
I think it's longer than that.
Yeah, I mean, as long as I've been playing, it's been around, and it was old then, I think.
So Foo Bar was like the feeder back in the day when I was like really tuned into rock.
Yeah.
And we had what's the name of the band from St. Louis here, the big rock band from the early 2000s?
Story of the Year?
Story of the Year. Yeah, and I remember too. So Foo Bar was like just going at that point.
Yeah.
And it was like the feeder for if you were good enough, you went from Foo Bar to opening up for a national tour at Pops.
Yeah.
And so, and I remember Story of the Year was known as something else the first
Big
time.
Blue Monkey.
Yeah, so I saw Big Blue Monkey at Foo Bar, and then they opened up for Darwin's Waiting Room
Okay.
at Pops, and I was like, that's crazy, they just made the jump. But Foo Bar then was like this bright, shiny new toy, and then I went to a show there in like 2014, a rap show. And I was like, this place has not aged well. Like, it's almost like for the last 10 years, they forgot to clean up after they closed type of thing. I'm like, oh.
Hey, it's a dark venue, man. There's stuff you
developing
miss.
character.
There's stuff
Yeah.
you miss.
It's a dive bar.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's served faithfully to this community. I mean, it's still doing. I mean, there's another guy that has worked here, Caleb Betts. His band, their first show was at Foo Bar, And it was awesome. It was a super fun time.
You guys are getting ready to have a show together, aren't you?
We are, yeah. We'll be doing one. I don't know if this podcast will be out by the time we're actually playing the show, but it's Saturday.
But if you were there, you should have been there, and it was awesome.
It was great.
Awesome.
Yeah, this is probably the best show that's happened for us this year.
And it's
I didn't even know.
where is it? The venue is
Off Broadway.
Off Broadway.
Yeah, off Broadway music venue.
Slipped my mind, my cognitive function.
So what I'm understanding is that I create incredible rock stars.
Yeah,
people
you
that
just
work
you
for
create.
me.
Yeah, this just like this
There's
is
so much pain.
You are shit.
so much.
There's so much pain. You get into
You
writing
need
much
to come
better
here
music.
in order to take that next step. You're like the farm system.
I'm the farm system
If you
for
can survive
sadness.
this, you can survive anything.
That's
So
You can survive tour life and not drinking in a van on the way back from that.
definitely, yeah.
So I really want to dig into this. So D. Snyder,
Yeah.
one of the judges on the We Will Rock or Who Will Rock
Yeah.
You, and he obviously is a rock icon for what he was doing in the '80s with Twisted
Certainly.
Sister. So how much? I mean, only a week of film time
Yeah.
for the show, but how much hands-on was he? Did you take any nuggets from him, or were you like, as D. Snyder?
I mean, we definitely did. You don't really get to spend a ton of time, unfortunately, with the judges because that can be something where they go, oh, well, this band became too close with them,
Right.
and like that's, I guess, not allowed. It's against the rules in some way, shape, or form, which makes sense. But he was very encouraging to us from the beginning. I mean, the first thing that we did, I will say, he wasn't encouraging in the very first performance we did, but he still voted for us. So it was like. He was harsh because he told us like, yeah, you guys did this song. Kind of just felt like you covered it. Don't feel like it was original. Which we were like, oh, we really felt like we did some cool stuff. And then some of the harmonies and intervals, and we changed up this part, and we went to this chromatic section, and we did stuff. Where we're like, oh, he's gonna love it. And he came back and he was like, and like that was it. But he still voted us through despite that. And in the next rounds, he was the one that every time was like, yeah, this is when I look at the bands, like this is the one that looks like it has some sort of originality and future to it. The other ones, I feel like I've heard them before. That one, send that one through. And that was really cool because he just took us by surprise with that. So
explain to me how you keep a group of young guys together that are all kind of stupid and maybe have a lot of dreams. And I mean, you're talking about especially like a brother dynamic.
Yeah.
I mean, that seems to me to be something that would be extremely difficult to keep together for 13 years. And then you have your other friends and there's, all the failures and all the empty promises and we're going to do something and then nothing happens. You're playing shows, you're miserable, you got no money. How do you get a group of guys to really stay together through that?
It's not easy. But I think that we were really fortunate because I think that Logan Moeller and myself have a very similar mentality when it comes to what this is, and that's just simply we could do nothing else. We don't really feel like we have and it's not to say that we couldn't develop skills to go work at another. I mean, I serve tables and I could probably find my way into doing that at a higher and higher level. I know that there's a lot of people that do just that and that's how they make all their money and it's great. But when it comes to educational advancement, I tried college and I was so not interested and he doesn't want anything to do with it. He's been tinting windows and he started a business doing that since he was 14 and we've just stuck to how can we do as little of those things as possible and continue doing this thing because we can't see ourselves doing anything else. So between the two of us, just being like, yeah, we'll never do something different, even though I think my brother is a little bit more like, this is not that it's too hard, but I feel like I'm throwing him under the bus. It's not that at all. It's just more he got married, he's got a house, he's got other things that go along with that. So his responsibilities are different, and then Jack, our bass player, he's not done. He's been playing music just as long as we have. I feel like I'm just starting to throw people under the bus, and I feel really bad about it because that's not what I'm trying to do. But
we don't want to break up the band.
No, we're not going to do that. We're signed in now. We can't even get out if we wanted. But I think we just had a really interesting grouping of people to where when some of us are down, because even when Logan Moeller and myself are down, Jack has an attitude that is able to talk to either my brother or really any of us and be like, hey, that negativity, shut that down, because he's really quick about some of those things and he's very reactional or empathetic. And so he can feel those things and it makes him feel I don't know, really intensely. So whenever one of us is down, he's like, you got to kill that or you're going to ruin me. You're not allowed to do that. And then Logan Moeller and I just have this we don't quit mentality. And my brother's so creative and ADD and OCD about the things that he does that as long as he has something to work on, he'll never stop. So it's just like we had a really good formula for why I was able to work. So even when some of us want to quit, we don't.
Would it have ever worked had you not had someone like Logan Moeller by your side the whole time that had as little desire to give up as you did? Like, is that a key part of why you're here? Is that you guys kind of just had each other to blow this thing up and to stick with it? Because I mean, 13 years of doing something that really makes no money. And I'm an expert at this because that's basically my life. And every time you make money, you reinvest it because you're so passionate about it. And you're so passionate about your employees and your people and your customers and these things that you're just constantly pushing things back into it even when you do have it. But it's, at the same time, you have a reality check multiple times a year where you go, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Am I meant to do this? And it seems to me like having two guys that can kind of ground each other in that through the having no money, the not buying a house, not getting married, not doing the things your friends are doing that, you know, whether you want to do them or not, no one really cares. But you're human, so you look around and you wonder, without that component, is this thing ever really going to get to that next level?
You know,
would it have stayed?
For me, it would have. But it was also, I mean, I say that and... So when we went through a weird phase when we went from our previous band, we were Clockwork for 6 years. We've been Hounds for a little over 3 now. And when we did the Hounds record, my brother approached Logan Moeller and I and said, hey, I think this record's going to do really well. So I quit. And we're like, whoa, okay, our lives are now different. What do we do with this information? And it wasn't because he hated writing music, but he was so exhausted by the road time that we were taking and just always barely breaking even or being slightly behind in money. Yeah. Like that's all we were doing. We were just always...
He's voting from a different spot.
He is.
House, wife, I mean, you know...
Well, he didn't have those things yet. He'd just gotten engaged and he was looking at the future and he was saying that she was miserable and he was miserable and no money was being made and it was just causing tension between them, and he had to pull himself out of it, especially because he thought, okay, this could do something. And he sat us down and he goes, what do you guys want to do? Like, how do you want to do this? And Logan and I, Moeller and I responded kind of in stereo. We're like, we're kind of planning on doing this till we die. I don't know if that'll be next year or 40 years from now, but I'm going to die doing this. And he goes, yeah, I don't want to do that. That's not what I'm desiring anymore, and I can't hold you guys back, because he was getting to a point where he was trying to make it difficult, like for rehearsals, and make it difficult for going to shows, and it was just out of, I think, a protection for his hope for what is now his future and now his present.
And what he hoped for in the long run. Yeah, I mean, I think that you know, the sabotaging up to the point of that conversation, maybe, you know, take it or leave it.
Sure.
But kudos to him for the self-awareness to say, we need to have a head-on discussion about this, because I want to make sure that, you know, you guys get everything you want. You're saying this is our life.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so kudos to him.
That's really, what we're doing now wouldn't have happened if Logan hadn't done that. Like, if Logan hadn't pulled himself out of it, because Logan was an incredible, like, part writer, but he was stuck on an instrument that he didn't love. Mm-hmm. And so it was maybe from that point, it took like 4 months to get the mix right, to get the mastering done, to get the CDs like put together and pressed and t-shirts and the whole thing. We put out the record, and then we didn't even have a release, because at the time I was getting ready to do like any of the interview stuff with radio or news or podcasts or whatever to present the record in 2017. I was putting on my pants and I was like spreading down the pockets because they were all bunched up, and I tore a ligament in my fretting finger. And so I was out for 9 weeks just because I tried to put on my pants. My pants were too tight. That was it.
Never happened to me, dude. Never happened to me.
My pants were too tight, and so it was a weird kind of continual sabotage. And it was the day that I was leaving to go to Nashville for like 9 weeks, like off and on, to find another bass player, to find more musicians. Now I can't play. Now all I can do is go and meet people and listen and tell them that I do have music, and if they want to listen to it, cool. And it was all the best thing that could have happened because I was able to make relationships in a different way. Instead of going and trying to sell myself, I went and met other people and they sold themselves to me. And then we just became friends because then later they were like, oh, so what do you do? And I'm like, I do have a band. I just can't play because I'm broken. And that was it. It was so miserable. I remember even going to a writing session before I knew that the ligament was actually broken, and I'm desperately trying to make chord shapes, and my finger just feels drunk, and it's just not doing what it's supposed to be doing because the parts weren't connected, and it was horrible.
Guitarist hands, man. They're broke. I have a buddy that has been playing since teenage years, and I remember early mid-20s. He just bending his wrist, flexion. Yep. You'd hear click, 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 and it wouldn't stop. It wouldn't get better.
Nope.
Anything. And here we are, probably 10 years later. I haven't seen him for a few years, but I guarantee it's just as bad, if not worse, because he's still playing. And I'm like, you guys, there's not exactly a health insurance plan out there for a guitarist's hands, You got massive.
Well, you can insure them at some point, like we heard, J-Lo insured her rear end, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but you got to have money and you got to have a reason to insure it.
Yeah. Yep. Lloyd's of London will issue a lot of different insurance policies that we just have. If you want to take a note.
That'd be awesome.
Take a note. So at that time, you come back from the injury.
Sure.
And you start playing.
Sorry.
No, I was gonna say, where does member 4 come into play, and how you get to where we are now, where your brother's like, you know what, it's still your dream of life. Has that changed for him? Where it's like, you know what, I'm all in now, and it just was a transition phase.
Oh, there's a lot that happens in between all that. So went to Nashville, spent time, met a lot of different musicians, but everyone's more of a hired gun, and they play in what's considered just like the Nashville number system, where you tell them what key and then the numbers, and they just follow it. And it's a very different style of writing to the way that we write, because we write a little bit more what we consider to be kind of orchestrally. I mean, not really. I mean, I'm sure if there's somebody that's listening to this that's in orchestra, they're going to be like, shut this guy down. He doesn't know what he's talking about. But we look at it, and it's very specific parts, and we do them purposefully. So even when we were interviewing other bass players, we had guys come in, and they would just kind of play around the song, and we'd have to tell them, this isn't going to work because you don't understand what we're doing here. You're playing the song, but you're not playing the song. You're just playing in the song, and we don't need that. We need somebody that really knows what they're doing within this, and if that's something you want, then cool. If it's not something you want, then this isn't going to work. My buddy Jack McCoy, he was playing in a band called Minus Me, and he had put out some of his own acoustic pop demos that he'd done. He was a really great singer, great frontman, grew up with us in the same school system, always around us playing shows and stuff. I just asked him, hey, we need a bass player. We need to make this happen. Would you be interested? You're a great guitarist. You're a great vocalist. I don't know how I'm going to replace somebody like my brother, because he's such an incredible vocalist. We need somebody that can sing like that. You're the only person that I've met that comes close. And he looked at me, he's just like, I'm a guitar player, not interested. It's like, okay, cool. So then he decided, I'll join you, I'll play guitar, but I'm not going to play bass. He comes out, he plays guitar, we do a couple gigs together, and then he comes back to me and he's like, hey, I'm stepping all over you, I'm playing the bass parts anyways, let's go buy a bass guitar. So we went up to Guitar Center, we found one, got him a little bass rig, and from there it just sort of skyrocketed. He loves it now, and that's his thing. So he took over my brother's position. We became the 3-piece band that won the show, and we knew that we were going to be doing another record. I came to my brother and I was like, hey, you're playing keys now, and you're writing songs. Some of the songs you've written since we've not been working together have been incredible. I'm not asking you to be on this record, but you did the last record with us that got us to this position where we were considered for the show, considered for all the different things we were now reaping the benefits from, and I want you to produce this record with me. He's like, okay, yeah, that sounds great. He starts working on it. About 4 or 5 weeks into starting to get into production notes and sharing demos and songs, and him coming and spending a little bit of time at some of the rehearsals, he calls me, he's like, hey, I got some production notes. Can we meet up just for 40 minutes? I want to go over some stuff with you. I was like, yeah, that sounds great. That'd be awesome. He comes over to the house, and we're sitting down. He's like, all right, I don't have any notes. I want to be in the band again. And I was like, oh, okay, this is not what I expected, but what do you mean? We have a bass player, you can't play bass. And he's like, I'm going to play keys. I'm like, do you have a keyboard? He's like, no, I don't.
So back to guitar.
Yeah, so I'm like, all right, so how are we going to do this? And he had his own ideas about what he wanted to do, how he wanted to do it. He got all the gear and we started putting it together. And that's how we became the 4-piece that we are now. That is ultimately helped shape the sound that is getting us the attention we're getting.
So it seems like all these things kind of, just listening to your story from the outside, all these things have kind of fallen into place.
Yeah.
Do you have a theory on how all of that has worked? Do you believe in things happening for a reason? What is it that, why is it that you're sitting here? Why is it that through all of that stuff, you feel like you've stuck it out and you've met the right people and you've had people pull away at just the right time, which actually somehow helped you and helped them and made you better. You found through that Jack, who, by the way, is the only one that's ever in here before 2 p.m.
Oh, yeah.
So, he's your early morning-ish guy for a rock guy.
That's right. He'll show up right at 12.
But just listening to your story from the outside, it really seems to me like there was a lot of things that happened. And, how do you balance that at the end of the day when you think about all of these things that you've gone through to get to this point? There'll be many more.
Yeah.
Because you're nowhere near finished.
No.
But if you look at all of that, I've seen you up here with your parents. They're extremely supportive.
Oh, yeah. They've been absolutely...
are, I see you guys up here having meetings and talking things through, and they're always in your court. Your brother... coming and going at the right times and providing what he provides to you, finding Jack, all these things. Getting on this TV show, I don't even know how you balance the odds that would happen and then you would win it. How do you balance all that when you think about it at the end of the day?
I have a theory, personally, and I remember we did a documentary that hasn't been released yet, and it's going to look really funny when we do, because it's been almost a year since we did the documentary with the people from Topgolf that we won the show with. They asked, what's the word of wisdom? What's the kind of a similar idea of what would you tell people that want to be in your position, or that want that record deal, that want to win a TV show, that want to do the thing? And we've been doing this now for 13 years. The only key is don't stop. That's all I can say about any of it, because in St. Louis especially, there are bands that are better than us. There's bands that are better than us in the United States, is all over the place. There's so many bands and so many artists. There's better vocalists, better songwriters, better performers, better guitar players, but there's a lot of people that quit. And I think that's really all it comes down to is did you decide you were going to do this because you want millions of dollars and for people to think you're great, or do you do it because you actually love doing this? And if you do it because you love doing it, eventually that authenticity will hopefully be recognized, or it won't, and you still did it anyways, and it was what you wanted to do, so it didn't matter.
What's the long play? Everybody's so instant gratification right now that it's start, stop, evolve, start, stop, evolve. Where in your situation, it's instead of okay, well, I'm tossing in the towel, I'll give it another crack after I take away the notes of why things didn't go right the last time.
Yeah.
You're much not trying to boost the ego of just like the Beatles, but you guys grasped and you embraced the evolution through it all and said, this isn't the end of us. This is just, it's next chapter time.
This is what it is today, man. And then we there's something that I've been listening to a podcast that Third Man is putting out. Third Man is the Jack White record shop and record label, and they're going through the story of the White Stripes. And something that was so cool to me is Jack White, before the White Stripes were even doing anything, he was doing upholstery, and he would write poems, and he would put poetry and paintings and vinyl and so many different things inside of these pieces of furniture. And he was just creating art for the sake of creating art, because that's what he does. And there's stuff that's out there that no one will ever see or no one will ever hear. And it's cool, almost cooler that way. Not to say that people don't want to hear it, or even that it was objectively good art. There's probably a lot of it that could be total nonsense. No one will know. It doesn't really matter. But it's the idea of continuing to do things not because people are watching, but just because that's what you're doing.
Yeah, I think that's the definition of a true artist. And so, we had covered it in that last podcast, Warhol, that was something he lived by. It's I could care less what you think about it, And while you're thinking about it, I'm just going to keep creating more art.
Yeah, and even
do
the
it for
fact that you're
myself.
thinking about it at all, that's just, I mean, I guess, is that the winning factor? I mean, somebody's thinking about it.
Well, so that's something we try to raise. My daughter, who's at an impressionable, like, rebellious age, that's something that, like, I reinforce to her is, like, just because you think, and it's true, negative attention is better than none, but when it comes to parenting a child, you're like, no, I would rather you have none than me have to give you negative attention, because in the end, like, that's the stuff you remember as a kid. But I mean, like, that's like more like look yourself in the mirror time. For me, I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna have to correct her for behavior, but what have I done wrong to provoke that behavior? That type of thing. So it's like this fine line of like, in your business, negative's still good because people are still talking.
It's true, and there was a lot of negative. Let me tell you. Like, we look back at some of the Clockwork days, especially, and we're like, oh my gosh, we did everything wrong, but now we know that.
Do you guys ever go back and listen to some of the stuff in your life?
We listen to it all the time. Well, I mean, I say that sounds weird. We go back and laugh at ourselves often, especially like our private YouTube videos. There's a whole arsenal of videos where we're like, what were we doing?
Wait, you have private YouTube videos?
Yeah, definitely. And,
that I can't watch?
Oh, you can watch them.
Yes!
You can watch
We'll get that password.
We'll get the password. Yeah, it's gonna be great. It's stuff that like you will never let me live it down. Some of the things that we did, but it's all fun. Like we didn't care. It was nonsense stuff. I mean, I'm even talking about it like it was bad. It really wasn't. There was just we were doing stuff for the sake of doing it, not because there was even a great reason to do it, but people reacted to it, and it was fun, and it's how we ended up getting things like before Lou Fest died, we ended up doing the Lou Fest with Hosier and Brandon Flowers and Ludacris, and that was crazy to be able to play that show. Thousands of people show up to watch your show, and you're like, what? We're just a band that kind of knows how to play our instruments, but people showed up and they were singing our songs, and we couldn't believe it. Yeah. And then to later that day, go out and people recognize who you are, and then I was side staged during Brandon Flowers and Ludacris's sets, and just to be able to be in that environment was something that we were able to achieve just because we did what we did.
That's so surreal, I'm sure, because you're like, yeah, I know I was up here, but like I've lived here virtually my whole life.
Right.
And now all of a sudden, because you saw me up there, you're like, I'm going to give this guy's art a chance. And because of that, they're walking away like, I'm going to remember you.
Yeah. And
like,
I was no different of a person being on that stage as I would have been if I was just another person in the audience, but because I was on that stage, people cared. Well, so finding yourself in a position for where people care, that's what we want, I guess.
And how many times were you that person in the audience that also was in the band?
Yeah.
And nobody would give you the second look? Because I've walked that shoe when we were teenagers. I think all of us had like that little like click where you're like, oh, I went to such and such show, and at the same time, like, I'm there with the other guys in my band. Nobody gave a shit.
No.
Nobody cared, But the minute they see you on stage, you're like, oh, whoa. Like,
yeah.
But, I mean, that's the lights, the sound. Like, it is all very...
It's all the smoke and mirrors. Well, even like the idea of what it is being on those stages, it's exactly where we mean to be. And it's so fun, and we love it. But it's exhausting. Earlier that day, we had to, like, load up all the gear, or we had to drive in from like 9 hours away. Nobody ate well. Nobody really like had anything to drink, because we didn't want to stop 30 times on the way from this city to that city for somebody to pee. Yeah. And then we get there, we're all tired and sweaty. Maybe we showered, maybe we didn't shower that last night because we had or didn't have a hotel. And then it's exhausting. You get there, there's like, okay, sweet. There's some band catering. Okay, what'd you guys get us? There's some crackers and a bottle of water. A bottle of water? Well, it's a big one. Okay, great. And it's like, and then
Listen, I hate to break it to you, but you're not Kanye West, buddy. Get on the stage.
Exactly.
That's their attitude. You're really, like, he's not wrong. I'm going to eat the crackers, and I'm just going to take my opportunity.
And I don't even mean it to at all sound like we're saying, like, oh, boo-hoo, it sucks for me. Like, we loved it. We still love it. But it's funny, because, like, from the outside looking in, before you're in that position, I look at those bands, and I'm like, oh, they're kings and queens. They're like absolutely living their best lives, and they show up and they're looking amazing, and I didn't realize that their entire day was them sitting in the hot sun waiting for their turn to come out and do that. Or maybe they had a car and they just sat in their car with the AC on and their crazy outfit that they're wearing with like the blue hair and the glasses that are bigger than their face and whatever they're like.
How does Lady Gaga get to an event back before she was Lady Gaga and had a limo and an
Probably got
entourage?
like double bags on his shoulder.
Yeah,
it comes to the same
think about
thing.
that. How does she go from her Holiday Inn in New Jersey to some club in Manhattan when she was nobody, and yet was she dressing in the meat clothes? How did she get there? How dedicated was she?
She genuinely didn't care if other people were showing up because of her or not. She was doing it because that's what she does.
It's the art.
Yeah.
It's the art.
It had nothing to do with how am I going to do it? It had everything to do with well, this is what I'm doing. And the how doesn't matter.
Conor and I exchanged some text messages this week. I'm reading a book that he read last year, and we talk about selfishness and what do you say, unself-consciousness, when you become just completely oblivious to what others would even think of the act.
Yeah.
That's where, and you're not doing it for yourself, you're doing it for doing it. And that's kind of where it's at. Maybe some of it's a little bit self-serving for Lady Gaga at a certain point, but then definitely parts of it where she's like, I'm doing this because this is the art I feel and I just need to put it out into the world. And it's not to make me feel better, it's not to make other people feel better, it's just because I feel this is a duty that has to be done. And that's where the enlightenment comes from of this is the path, and that's how success usually follows.
Well, even on there's so many different ways to take that. From the idea of crossing or not crossing the line, or going in and choosing to do something because you just want to do it or because you have purpose. So much of it for us as we've been growing as artists and as a musical group, for a long time we were so conscious about, well, what are we doing? Are people going to like this? Is this pop enough? Is this enough? It was until we kind of stopped and said, you know what? We're just not really responsible for other people's happiness about or acceptance about what we're doing. The moment we just said, man, we don't really care if you like it or don't like it, we love it. And then people were like, you guys look like you're having more fun than everyone else in the world when you're on that stage. It wasn't until we met those moments and everybody was like, this is what we do. We really don't care if you like it. And it's not mean. It's just we're not responsible for whether or not you like it. We're only responsible for whether or not we are passionate about it. If we're not going to keep doing it. I think especially with somebody like Lady Gaga, it's the same as Elton John. Why did he do the things that he did? Because he wanted to, man. He didn't care if you liked it. He did it because he liked it.
What's the self-love portion of it? You guys more collectively as a band, but I found relationships in my life, whether it be friendships or with my wife even. I look at when I met my wife as an example is when I stopped caring and I stopped trying to be something or someone in the hopes of getting the goal of a spouse or a significant other. When I really when I met her, I was so completely in love with my life and who I was and what I was doing on a daily basis that now all these years later and when you do that, it attracts the right people that you want around.
Yep.
And so for you guys as artists, it sounds very similar. When we stopped trying to be something to someone and we stopped answering the question of, so who do you sound like? You know, and that's a natural
Sure.
bystander question. When you stopped having to deal with that, all of a sudden it was I really like the way these guys sound.
And even stuff as simple as our set list. It's something like that. We would have 10 opinions on you shouldn't open with this song, and you should make sure that the set doesn't get too low at this set dynamically, and or at this point dynamically, and then never end with this song. Is when we stopped, not to say that counsel is necessary in all of it, but that's exactly what it is. It's counsel. It's not the decision itself. And to have people to lean on that have done incredible things with their careers has been wonderful for us, and we've avoided so many failures because of it. But at the end of the day, us being able to say, yeah, we want to end it with this song when we're playing this show, and everyone goes, why would you do that? Well, because it's ours, and if you like it, cool. If you don't, okay.
At some point when you've been doing it long enough, I think, and for me personally, every time you make a change, and we've done quite a few here. Mm-hmm. You're worried about what people are going to think, and you're worried about will it ever be successful, and you're worried about all these other things. But there comes a point when you believe in yourself and what you're doing, and to do it at the level that the amount of work, the amount of money, the amount of time, the amount of passion to do it well instead of treading water and just staying around. You almost have to get to the point where you may ask people what they think, or they may just volunteer their opinion.
Sure.
And honestly, you don't give a fuck anymore.
You don't, man.
You're like, I'll listen to your feedback.
Right.
But at this point, I'm not worried about hurting your feelings. I believe that if I do this well with the vision that I have, the way that I want to do it, I won't want to jump off a bridge because I've been doing something your way forever, hoping that it will work. And two, I think I actually know what I want to be doing here and what I need to do, and sometimes I can't translate that through someone else's idea. And part of that is someone on the outside may understand or believe they understand your business, or they may believe that they understand your dynamics or your customer or what it is that you do or your employees. They maybe understand 1% of everything that you understand about that business. So you can listen to them and you can value opinions, and there's people that you value their opinions significantly more than others that know you, that, like if I talk to my wife and she gives me advice based on the heartache or what she's been involved in or the amount of work or how it's going to affect our family, I take her opinion, worth more than, a buddy that just says, I'm in the coffee business and, I think you should be doing this. And you're like, okay, dude. But you become more resolved in, if I'm going to fail or if I'm going to succeed, whatever it is, it's going to almost kill me.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to go down that road, I'm doing it my way. And when you're early on, you let a lot of people influence what you should be doing. Mm-hmm. And you listen to a lot of voices, and at the time you're just like, you're grabbing for straws, trying to figure out how to make everyone happy, trying to get people to believe in you and believe in your business and believe in even who you are as a person, because you're selling yourself constantly, and you need people to buy in. And if people don't buy in, then you're just on an island and there's a lot of failure there. But at a certain point, you just go, if this ship is going down, I'm doing it my way because I've done it with everyone else's advice for a while, trying to keep everyone happy, never hurting anyone's feelings.
Yep.
And, I'm exhausted, and at the end of the day, like, when things don't work, I'm the one that kind of is screwed, so I'm going to do it my way.
Well, you're the perfect example of this with the coffee shop here. Is, up until 14 months ago, full service bar, flatbreads. That's how we get our first guest of the show ever. The flatbreads. I mean, the different food offerings you had and the desserts, which were very good. And the nightlife here seemed like at times would trump the morning business when you would come through. But then you floated this idea, you're like, I'm going to get rid of the bar. I'm going to rip out, I'm going to get rid of the food. I'm going to redo the whole place. I'm going to do fresh pressed juices, bone broth, and and people's heads were melting. Absolutely. Because people do not like change.
They don't. And also we're in Cottleville.
Right. So just, I can't believe that Conor's going to do this. He's got such a cool, he's sitting on a gold mine.
All the money's in alcohol. You don't even know what you're doing. I'm like, okay, dude, I've been here for 8 years, and I understand that there's a lot of money in alcohol. And I understand, the funny thing is the coffee business, when I made that decision, wasn't near where it needed to be to even pay for this place.
Right. Sure.
So we made the decision knowing we were going to commit to this and we have to grow it. Like, this is not sustainable. This is part one of the plan, but it is not sustainable. Nope. So even when we made that decision, people are like, you can't support this place on a coffee shop. And I'm like, you're right, we're still doing it.
Yep. But that's like you were saying with the whole music thing and the career path, it's there is no plan B, and that's why plan A is going to work.
That's really all it comes down to, is like, and I know you feel exactly the same way. When you set out to do these things, I mean, okay, you're now roasting your own coffee. Really everything is pretty much here. You guys have a couple things like the specialty seltzer CBD drinks and things you'll bring in, but you make your own food, you make your own drinks, you roast your own coffee, you make your own pastries. Everything's now in-house for the most part, is like what it is. And along the way, just like us, people look at our music and they're like, hey man, there's like millions of bands out there. It's really cute that you want to do this, but when are you going to grow up? When are you going to go to school? When are you going to do the thing? Just like you, it's like, okay, cool, yeah, you want to roast coffee? Yeah, there's a lot of good coffee roasters. Are you sure that's what you want to do? Like, you're going to be competing with people. Think about your location. Think about what you're doing. Think about the clientele. There's going to be 100,000 different reasons as to why you shouldn't do it. At the end of the day, you have to decide if 10, 15, 30, however many years it takes you can look at it and go, well, it was my choice in my life, and I chose to watch it all go up in flames my way, or I succeeded and I did it my way. And it wasn't like, it's not to kind of dog on anybody else, but it's ultimately only going to affect you if it doesn't work.
I think when it's a creative process, you have to, if you're a passionate person that's in it for the creative process, that wants to see things through, and in my case, I have a lot of ideas, I have a lot of passion, and what I found when I knew the last couple of years that I just wasn't into it anymore, I wasn't passionate about it, and therefore I couldn't get excited every day to come in here and do it. And then that lack of passion led to almost an anxiety every time I'd walk in the door, because I didn't want to do this anymore. But yet it was still paying the bills, and I had a lot of people that believed in it, and I had employees that had been with me a long time, so I felt trapped in that. But I literally just hit a point where I could not go into work and do what I needed to do and be under the amount of stress that I was under to just hate what I did.
Right.
Like, I get it if you're just going into your job and you've got a bunch of other hobbies outside of your job. So, I go to the office and I work 9 to 5, and then I go coach all my kids' teams, and I'm passionate about, poker, and I got my guys night with the guys.
Yeah.
And I do all these other things, and that suffices for the lack of passion in my 9 to 5. And I get a paycheck, and there's security and all this stuff. I don't have any of that. I don't have security. I don't have paychecks always.
Yeah.
I only have the desire to force something to happen for a long-term goal of making something sustainable. And the only reason I would be willing to put myself through that hell and my family through that hell is to create something really special. And to create something special, I have to be 100% engaged. I cannot be on the sideline going, this is going to be great. I hope I don't have to, be here for more than 2 hours a day, because I don't even want to see.
From an outsider looking in on the business, first of all, you get the glory of saying, like, right now, like, I think I told you this a few weeks ago, I came in here one afternoon to get a coffee. I had 8 people deep in line to order, and then, there's 5 people waiting for it to go to order, there's places jacked, and I'm just like, it was never this busy as BB's. But you saying that now and verbalizing that now, I'm like, yeah, I remember those days where, like, I would see you maybe once a week. Maybe.
And it was so bad that I would, and, me and my wife had a lot of conversations, but it got so bad that there was days where I would just come in here, I would look around at the staff and just go, I don't want to be here. And I would get in my truck, and I would drive up the Schnucks parking lot or Office Depot parking lot. I would lay my seat back down, and I would read Twitter, take a nap, listen to a podcast. I didn't even enjoy it, I just couldn't be here. Yeah. And I'm like, how am I going to make this as successful as it needs to be, or do it for another 10 years if the second I walk in the door, the anxiety is so crushing because I know it's not what I meant to do anymore.
Oh, yeah.
And it was beautiful, but we have to say goodbye to this now because I don't want to be here anymore. And if I'm not here, then I'm not really sure what the goal of any of this is.
And I think that's not unfortunately, but that's a real part of it. And I think that's where so many people quit, is they get to that point because you start somewhere, you get all that information, you build the thing kind of takes over, it does its own version of itself. You find yourself, I think that it's inevitable for most people to hate some component of where they start, especially when they're doing a creative thing, because there's so many people that want to tell you how to do it. And we're from the Midwest. We're kind, and we don't want to offend people. And it's very, all the oaks. We really don't, I've had to learn so consistently, relearn that it's okay for other people to not be happy with what you're doing.
Do you find yourself having an extreme impatient with other people needing you to hear their opinions when they have no idea what they're talking about?
I've been through it. But now I don't find myself in as many of those positions anymore. I think that I'm just positioning myself more to only talk to people about like the thing that I do if I want to talk to them about it. There's going to be moments when you're talking to, especially people that support our music, they want to talk to us about how it was important to them, or like if a lyric moved them, or if a performance moved them. And I'll talk to somebody all day about that stuff because that means more to me than anything else. Because like we had a show that we did in Atlanta. And it's a guy that never heard our stuff and never done anything, but he came up to me. He was this big dude. He kind of looked, I don't know if you know Guy Shaw. is the big red-haired drummer in Night Hike. It's just like a dude that looked like him is just like this big ripped dude with huge hair, drums, and is in a rock band, and it's not the guy that I'm mentioning, but it's the guy that looks like him, just to clear that up. And he just comes to me and just is like bawling. And I'm like, what is happening to this grown man that's coming up to hug me and telling me that a song that I wrote was that important to him? And he's never heard it before. So it's like things like that, like I will always be there for that kind of stuff. But when people want to tell us like that the way we're doing our music isn't, I don't know, good enough or something, or like how they want to give you advice.
The guy that's like, so here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking instead of using that little contraption, the keyboard that your brothers are really passionate about, I think you should look into this, or you know,
yeah.
I think you should tour more. And like they have no idea the inner component of the way everything works, and yet they have an opinion and they have to tell you. Do you find yourself just going, okay? And like backing away slowly? Do you tell them thanks for your opinion? Like
those conversations don't last long, man. That's all I can say.
That's the hardest.
I used to take them really well, and
Yeah.
I'm finding the more I get set in understanding what it is I want to do, the more impatient I am with people that need to tell me how to do what I do.
Sure.
And think from spending an hour in my shop, 3 times a week. They understand everything about this, and they need to have an opinion on how to do it. And that's not to say that I haven't had those people give me some of the best advice at times.
Right.
And I've listened to it, and I've welcomed it, and I've needed that. But there is this weird thing when you do something professionally creative and you put it out there for people. There's a lot of people that just believe that they know how to do it much better than you, and they're generally people that aren't involved in that kind of business whatsoever.
Well, that's the hardest part for you because it's a public eye. So Jordan can be like, whatever, dude, walk away. And you're a business owner in a part of a small town. Bad gas travels fast in a small town. You've got people that are coming in here. Some of those people that are highly opinionated spend a decent amount of money.
And we need their money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's the qualifier is you have to put up with that at a certain point or you don't. And you either alienate people to like, I don't want to hear it, and that actually conditions maybe others to steer clear. And just know like that's a small investment in me being a lot happier with the direction we're going. Or you have to listen to them and you're like, well, this sucks, but this is the cost of doing business.
I can run away to a different city after I talk to that person. I don't ever see them again. You're right here. And the next day, that same person can come and be like, hey, I had some more thoughts about the advice I gave you. And this is what I was thinking. I saw the title of an article on Facebook, and now I'm an expert. So
and because somebody else shared that and I read just the article, I'm an advocate. So I want to tell you that your operating margin only needs to be 16%.
Also, we started a petition. So that.
Change.org.
I love petitions. But no, like I'm not sure you would ever even be able to read me and understand how annoyed I am in that situation when we do it here, because my main job is for you to feel appreciated as a customer, and for you to come here, and for you to feel warm and invited. So you're not going to ever read that on me. But inside my head, you might see my eyes kind of go blank, and I'm thinking in my head, I have so many things to accomplish today. This guy's, or girl, or whoever it may be, is ruining this train of thought. Now I'm off track. By the way, this guy thinks he knows my business, and me, he doesn't know, or she doesn't know any of it. And all of this will happen with a blank look on my face. I'll be nodding, and I'll thank you for being a customer, and then I'll go downstairs, and I'll get back to whatever it was that I did.
But see, you guys are both, so it is very shared, because you guys are both entrepreneurs, and I think the entrepreneurial side of anyone kind of feels that pain.
Oh, yeah.
Where you're like, dude, I've got to put up with a little bit of criticism, but at the same time, I'm going to tune out, because no different than the lead singer or the lead guitarist or anybody in a band and the guy who owns a successful small business, people come to see both of you to see both of you. So you're a figurehead, and you've got to accept that, because if you run from it, it's hard, and that's tough for you.
I would say, just to clarify that, if we drop service or it's something that I feel like, because it's not wanting to hear the negative. Right. I want to hear the negative when it's something that I dropped the ball, or my staff dropped the ball, or whatever it may be, so I can address it. Because the last thing we want to do is be like, our way's the right way, all you can screw off.
Right.
And I don't even care if it took you 72 minutes to get a scone and, the customer or the barista just ignored you while you were standing there because he's too busy hitting on a chick. And then your latte was
some rock star
400 degrees hot, and I just don't care because your opinion doesn't matter. No, this is more like, when you're humoring someone with asking them, kind of how their day's going or whatever, and then the conversation immediately goes into how you should improve your business, and it's not based on anything you did wrong. It's based on just a brain fart they had that day because they're an expert.
Well, and even on that, there's that's the expression that I just have for some of it, but there's a lot there, but. For me, to put it in the terms of here at Upshot, for us with Hounds, it's far less for me. I've learned about whatever it is they have to say, and way more about whatever they're reacting to. Because when I'm thinking about why somebody would even give me a criticism, or when I ask maybe this is relatable, maybe it's not, but there's certain people that I ask that don't have any idea the same level of they don't have the same level of education on music as I do, or my bandmates do, or maybe even some of the other people that we work with. But I'll always ask them, hey, what'd you think of this show? Hey, what'd you think of this? Hey, what'd you think about this part of the set? Not even because, or I'll ask them what their favorite part was and what their least favorite part was. Not because they understand it, but there is a reaction from them that I can then try to work backwards and be like, why didn't they connect with that? Or why don't they connect with that? So maybe on your end, it's hey, they're saying they don't like this coffee or that coffee. Well, why? Is it because they don't understand it enough to appreciate it, or is it because it is bad? And
you should get rid of that parking gate in your parking lot because that's really stopping all your regulars from coming in.
Believe me, buddy, I would. If they were regulars, they know the tokens are free, but see,
and they would also know that we don't own the parking lot, nor do we own that gate.
So the constructive criticism, when you get down to the minute level of things, I would love the constructive criticism. When they're coming to you, I would never do this. I would never end the set with this song. Why would you ever get rid of alcohol? It's that shit that I find comes from a place of insecurity.
Sure.
They hate the fact that you're doing it better or than they could or well worse. And you know what else?
Projection's real.
Well, and the insecurity of I can't do that. I work 40 hours a week. I don't even own a small business, but I want to criticize you and the struggle you've gone through to get it to this point. I don't even know what it's like to be creative and live tour stop to tour stop, changing in rest stops, but fuck, I kind of wish I did.
Right.
So,
and it's funny. I'm not at all going to say that it's the same thing, but to me it's a similar thing. A very good family friend of ours has, in the same time that I've been going through all the musical stuff, he's been getting his doctorate, and he's going to be a pharmacist, and he's working in this very different field, but it's taken almost the same amount of money and the same amount of time of being broke and the same amount of time of living with your family, and he wasn't ever guaranteed a job either. It was we're going through very similar kind of chapters, I guess, of life, and having the same kind of I'm broke. I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know if I'm even going to be able to finish this. I have no money. Well, I'm really broke. Now I'm in debt. What is this?
The difference is you want to write music. He's never worked in a pharmacy and know that he wants to be a pharmacist forever.
I guess.
And that's a big decision when you think about it. When you go to school and you get an advanced degree, I can't tell you how many people I know that have done that, and within the first month of their job, they go, oh my God, this isn't for me. But now you're chained to that, at least to some degree, because you've got to make the starting salary that person would make in that situation just to pay your debt.
So you clock in, you get up on stage, you actually enjoy the next hour to 2 hours, 30 minutes to 2 hours. He clocks in at Barnes, and I know this for a fact because one of my dear friends is a pharmacist at Barnes. And while he does the job, man, he I don't know how many times he's been like, God, I wish I could do what you do. Because it's just, he took the safe play, and he'll be the first one to tell you, he took the financially safe play that was laid out before him. When you have that talk at 14, 15, 16 with your parents, what do you want to do for college? And they presented different options, and Dad was a pharmacist, laid it out in front of him and said, hey, listen, here's the financial piece of it. He's like, yeah, I'll do that. Not knowing that, like, a lot of days he's going to be like, man, I don't have a window in this place. I can't see outside. I work for the man still, and it's actually worse because the government then mandates the man that mandates me, and it's just like he gave up all creative control, and that's where, like, I mean, really for us here today in this room, like, and anybody that listens, like, I think that's what we're driving home is like follow your heart, not your head. You know.
But do you ever sit there and I think about this all the time. We say this as though that maybe was not the best decision he could have made. But I also sit here at the same time knowing that that guy, if he does his job well and he finds something he loves within it, whether it's customer interaction, whether it's, you know, whatever that job may lead into, he may have the last laugh because I may still be sitting here at 60 years old trying to figure out how to have any money in my IRA and anything that's worth anything. And I can sit here and go, I followed my dreams and I was creative the whole time. Wow, I'm a genius. And he's sitting there laughing going, yeah, you know, I
can buy your business tomorrow.
Well, but in my 25 years, I found things that I loved within that job, although I didn't love the entire thing. And now I'm so comfortable that I can go do the things that you can't do because you only followed your creative path. And there's some part of me that I can never figure out which one of us is actually right. Because there's no guarantee that anyone ever breaks it anywhere. You may be paycheck to paycheck the rest of your life being creative.
Well, what did we say this week that, like, you know, part of my life, and after you read the book, you know, same, it's like, since 23 years old, I've been like, either I'm crazy or all these other people are crazy, and the worst thing about crazy is crazy doesn't know it's crazy. So, like, one of us is out of our minds.
I mean, well, on kind of both those points, I think that we are crazy. Definitely, I think we are out of our minds, but I think that's the thing that maybe draws people to it. What we're doing, I mean, I've had almost every one of the people that I've grown up with out of high school. I'm going to business school, I'm going to be in the military, I'm going to be a doctor, I'm going to be this, I'm going to be that, whatever the thing is, I'm going to be a teacher. All of them are very wonderful and acceptable options. It just wasn't for me. Right. And along the way, everyone's gone, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Man, I'm already doing it. I don't know. Maybe I won't be able to put any money in my IRA, but I've liked it the whole time. I don't have anything about it where I'm like, I wish I would have done that. I mean, I've got things where I wish I would have done what I was doing smarter, but it's not that I wish that I had gone and been a doctor instead.
How many times did you feel jealousy of your friends that were actually getting ahead though while you were grinding it out?
Never jealousy, more insecurity. I mean, it was much more like I have one of the better friends I grew up with. He got like a 4.0, went to Mizzou, he's married, he's got a job with MasterCard, and he's making a great salary, and he's since like moved up and gone to other companies and done great stuff, and they've got a house, and their life is put together in a way that looks like it would be correct.
Yeah.
And for me, I remember like going and like visiting with them at their place even before they had their house. They were living in an apartment nearby, and they're talking to me about like what their lives are like, and they're showing like I see their new furniture and their cats and their stocked refrigerator and like their comfort that they have there. And I'm looking at myself and I'm like, and I've got a couple guitars and a pedal board and I've got an amp and we're gonna be on the road next weekend. And it's all, both things are like, my thing's cool and I love my thing, but it's hard to not feel insecure when we're the same age. And if you're measuring, and he's supposed to be the like goal, I'm losing big time.
Well, so you're just you're looking at the wrong scoreboard,
right?
Now,
you got to just look at it.
But the realities is there are those outside pressures, whether it's talking to your family, whether it's your grandparents and what they thought they worked so hard to create for your parents and you. The reality is there is a ton of outside pressure on us being able to kind of, I don't know, become an adult, and sometimes following that creative side that doesn't immediately produce results doesn't feel like adulting, and there's a lot of people that look down. I remember the last time me and you sat down, I talked to you and I said, like, how hard was it to see people from high school when the band was like, you know, playing at 7 Cupcakes.
Right.
And you've got nothing happening, at least to the outside world, that you can claim as success, even though you know it's exactly where it needs to be for you. What did that feel like to meet a girl or see a guy and say, yeah, you know, we just played at the Cupcake Bar in the Strip
Right.
Center in Cottleville. It's a pretty big deal. And he's like, yeah, I just, you know, finished school and bought a house, and you know, and you're like, yeah, that's neat. Like, in a vulnerable moment, you have to kind of admit to some degree that had to have been really heart-wrenching, because I know when I compare myself to others, so when I compare myself to other business people, other family people, other married people, other coffee shops.
Sure.
Are we growing fast enough? Are we doing enough? Are our baristas trained enough? Am I making enough money? What should my profit margin? That outside comparison actually starts to destroy you, because you start thinking about where you should be versus where you naturally are in your process. And you have to remember, a lot of those people put in those days and those hours, and they also felt as sick and disgusting as you do at times, because you do doubt yourself at some points. I mean, I'm full of self-doubt where, you know, one week we're packed and I'm like, oh, Jesus, I'm a genius. You know, this is incredible. Like, people love me. And then the next week, you have like 3 slow days, and I can be the first one within 3 days to be like,
what are we doing?
Man, I'm really missing the mark here. I screwed this up. Like, it's amazing to me how fast I can doubt myself.
Yeah.
And it doesn't stop me, but it's always there. And I don't know how to make that go away, or how to stop, and how to have complete faith. I'm not secure in any of that. I'm literally living, and I think as I get older and I mature and I try to figure out how to not compare myself, and I read a bunch of books that develop me as a person. And I have conversations with people I respect, like Caleb and you, and we talk about these things. It allows me to have a much better perspective on who I am, what I'm doing, why I'm doing it. But that doesn't mean that, you know, next Friday, if for some reason we're slow and I do half of what I should, I won't be sitting at home Friday night completely self-doubting what I did.
Like, I mean, I don't think that it's avoidable. Because, I mean, we're going to play, I mean, this year we'll probably play some shows that are sold out, and we'll play some shows that are like 20 people. And the 20 people shows, we're going to look at each other and go, oh my gosh, we don't have enough money. He's got to make this much a week for his house payment. I've got to make this much because for my insurance and my car payment and my phone bill. And what are we going to do for this? We don't even have food for, like, or money for food. We don't have enough money to replenish the merchandise. How do we get people to this show? How do we, like, ruin, whatever the situation is? And we're even going to be putting out a record this year, and we're going to do hopefully great in some markets, but we're without a doubt going to do poor in some markets. There's no avoiding it, because there's some people that are going to connect with the music and some people that aren't. It's just continuing to adjust and adjust and adjust, because I'm gonna have those days where I even writing songs. We were writing songs for this last record, and we landed somewhere that we all love. But there was moments within that when we were putting these songs together where I'd write a song and I would hate it as I'm writing it. And some of them, like some of those songs, are songs that we all love now. And there's some of the people that have heard them, they're their favorite songs. But in the process of that, I remember trying to write one song. And I'm not going to name it just to make sure that I don't destroy it later for other people if they go like, oh, this is the song that he hates. But like we were putting together this song that was super hooky, and it was like this aggressive power ballad song.
Track 5. I already know it's track 5.
Yeah, it's track 5. No, it's we were putting together this like
super hooky.
This really big, like, kind of like screamy song, like where I'm at the top of my range, and it's supposed to be like electric. And it just felt so bleh to me in this moment where I was just like, I hate this. I hate all of this. And because of me just stopping and going like, I'm not going to try anymore. I'm trying to make this song happen. I ended up writing another song that's one of our band's favorite songs. Just because I just stopped trying. So
let's talk about this.
Yeah,
your single is called...
Oh, I thought you said you are single. Oh, gosh.
Stacy, I am not claiming to be single. Do not hold this against me.
This isn't the Valentine's Day edition where we're trying to like get you hooked up on Tinder. We did have a conversation about that, but yeah, the new single. You guys have got a new single.
We do have a new single, and we love it.
What's it called?
3 Hits of Acid.
Do you care to expound?
Yeah, I do. So, I love this song. I'm really excited about it. We didn't even intend for it to be on the record. We wrote, we take pride in the fact that we actually do write all of our music, and we put it together as a band. We have a couple guys that we've worked with that have been incredible with us along the way and help with arrangements and some of the production. And so we've got and even some of the writing at times too, because I've just got some really talented people in my life that I love bringing in. But we were writing with a guy named Justin Flagg, and we're working with a guy, Jimmy Mano, and we have Jason McIntyre that's engineering the record. We're putting all this together. We're really feeling strongly about how it's coming together. We're all comfortable with the record, and we even were able to pull some of the songs from our previous record for remixing, and some of them some re-recording, because we wanted to bring in some of the mixes from our late engineer Matt Emlung, just because it was important to us, and he did stuff that helped us become the band that we are. So bringing all those things in, we had this finished record. We turned it into BMG, and then I had a demo that I had written with this guy Ted Brunner. Ted and I were connected by our engineer Jason, who he was listening to the songs. He's like, guys, the songs are great. This all feels really good. I think you have some really strong ones, but I don't think you yet have like the Goosebumps song. You don't have the one that like is making me go, yes, that's you guys are. This is going to be great. And so I was like, okay, like that's hard to hear, but at the same time necessary. I'm like, okay, what can we do? He's like, I want to connect you with this guy. So Ted is amazing. He's written with Katy Perry, Selena Gomez, Miley Cyrus, Jesse James Decker. He was written with some other like rock bands, Bowling for Soup, 3 Days Grace. And he's with
He's made some hits.
He's made some hits. He's made some money. But he's a St. Louis guy, and he moved out to Colorado. We got connected. He drove in. We got an Airbnb for 3 days, and basically, I'm kind of freshly single at this time. I'm processing a lot of different things that are going on, and one of the things that was weird for me is when I was 17, I was in psychology class at Francis House Central, baby. And shout out to psychology class there.
Spartans.
The Spartans. And there's a small section that they do on psychedelics. And it was like a paragraph per like drug. There's not even hardly anything in there, but we're all dumb kids and we wanted to know more about them, so we started researching all the different psychedelics. One of my friends and I really wanted to do mushrooms. Couldn't find mushrooms. So
Still can't.
I'm
sorry.
my drummers. Oh gosh, should I even give this much information? Somebody that
we should probably keep.
Somebody that I know's sister ended up trading like.
It's always someone's sister.
Yeah, somebody's sister ended up getting us psychedelics, and she didn't tell us what it was going to be. We were hoping it was mushrooms. Ended up being acid. We've never done acid. We don't know what this is.
That's an extremely different type.
It's a different drug, man.
Yeah.
But we ended up getting this, and we didn't know how much it was. We didn't know what we were getting ourselves into, what to expect, how to expect. It didn't really matter. We were going to do it. There was like 6 hits of acid. He took 3 and I took 3.
That's how bad.
First timer, you're
know what we're
17, you're like,
This makes so much sense. But like he was working in the kitchen while he was the way he was.
one, makes the walls melt. What does 3 do?
What does 3 do? Man, let me tell you what
I
3
saw
does.
sounds.
I did though, and I had conversations with trees. It was
So how did you go to do this?
So we literally we didn't know what we were doing. We got like our game systems. We built like in his basement. We were gonna hang out there because that was like kind of his room, and we were just gonna take acid and then smoke weed and play video games all night. That was the whole plan.
So you did one of those things.
Yes, took acid, and it was like 6 p.m. or something like that. We did not plan this well. His parents were still home. My parents were at my house. We weren't going to go there because that was not even an option. So we leave his house and we're just walking around his neighborhood. Hasn't hit yet, and we're standing like at the edge of his cul-de-sac, and I just go, oh my gosh, and I realize that things are about to like turn on, and I go, we gotta call somebody. Somebody's gotta take care of us because we are about to not be okay. And I call my buddy Adam. I'm like, Adam, you gotta pick us up. We're right here right now. If you're fast enough, we'll still be here. Because I didn't know like where we were gonna go, what we were gonna do. I just know that we were entering something that we couldn't reverse, and I just had to accept that. Adam picks us up.
What age was that?
What age?
Yeah.
17.
That's a very big boy decision where you're like, I am not in control.
I'm not.
17 because that's over so many kids' heads.
I was not in control, man. There was no way that I was going to be
help
able.
you.
Yeah, exactly. We get picked up by Adam. We're driving around. He takes us to Taco Bell and then Dairy Queen. I don't know why we went to 2 places, but we did. I got some Mountain Dew. We're listening to MGMT. And we spent like 2 hours just driving around. It felt like 2 hours. It could have been 30 minutes. I don't know.
It was 3 minutes.
Yeah, it was 3 minutes.
You're like, I listened to that kid's song about 200 times.
We did listen to Kids. With that whole first record from MGMT, we just listened through. And I remember after we got maybe like it was like the second go around, I was like, we gotta listen to this song again. We gotta do this again. I started panicking. And I was looking out the window. And I just go, Adam, do you know how many things can go wrong at 60 miles per hour? Dude, we gotta get out of the car. And like, I'm freaking out. I was like, whoa, no, don't get out of the car. And like, the people that are there are like, okay, don't let Jordan jump out of the vehicle. And like, they're keeping me squished in the middle and they're trying to guard the doors and he's locking the doors consistently because I'm trying to figure out how to get out of the car. And he takes us to a park off Willott. There's like a park next to a church. That's where a lot of the rest of the story takes place. We go there, we play on the play structure, we're having a good time. We're completely out of our minds. I went and spent some time with this big oak tree that's down there. And
so the song's about the oak tree, or just the whole experience?
The song is just like it talks about a lot of different things. Oh gosh, because I ended up kind of going down this drug rabbit hole of even doing acid because my first real girlfriend and I had just broken up a couple months ago, and I was mad. I'm like, I can do whatever I want. I'm gonna live forever, kind of a mentality. And I'm just like, I'm going to do stuff. I don't care if other people get hurt. It just didn't matter to me. So I was just doing things.
This is very cyclical. You're in the same place in life right now.
Here we are. I know.
Mind blown. Instead of doing acid, this time you're writing
songs about it.
Yeah.
But we get to the park. We are out of our minds. Chain smoking Marlboro Reds. Oh, and I know. It was a sad story, but it was so fun. And I'm there. Eventually, the police show up because the park's closed. We shouldn't have been there. That was a bad idea. It's right next to the road. You can see everything.
Awful idea.
But I didn't make that decision. They just pulled me over. I had friends that had tried to like show up and like capture me and take me back to other homes. They couldn't grab me. Like I had friends like literally.
You were trying to catch a squirrel, bro?
You're a frisky antelope.
And it was just not going to happen. But they tried to catch me. They couldn't. They stormed off. It was a whole big scene. I've got my buddy Adam and like 3 chicks, and then Cameron. Sorry, Cameron is the other person that was doing drugs with me. Cameron's last name will not be mentioned.
But Cameron, if you listen to this, I'm so sorry you got dragged into this.
He was fine, I think.
I haven't talked to him in years.
Yeah. Well,
not since the park.
Yeah, not since the park. It all changed.
Mostly because our parents wouldn't let us get together.
Oh my gosh. Well, our parents.
Well, because the cops. Not account of the cops.
Cops show up. We all jump in the car. I finally was like, okay, cops are worse than cars. I'll get in the car. And I'm sitting there watching Adam like have his driver's license be pulled out. Like, what are you guys doing? The park's closed. All this stuff. He's like, let me see your license and registration. At that point, I decided to badmouth the cop. And he's like, what? And he like turns his like light on me. He's like,
what'd you say to him?
I'm not gonna say that.
Okay. We're past
No, I guess it was bad. It was bad though.
Do you have documentation about this evening in the penal system?
Oh, I don't know.
It's probably all washed away by now.
I was 17. Hold on.
Expunged?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Maybe I'd love to know.
You have immunity. You can speak openly.
Yeah, I need to talk to Officer Hendricks about that. We're in the car. He's like, okay, what's he on? It became a whole big thing. They ended up pulling me out of the car. I get arrested. They like throw me on the top of the hood of the car and like all this stuff. And I was just trying to be playful at this point. I didn't realize what was happening, but there was 10 squad cars and 12 or 15 officers, and I had 2 of them on my arms that were holding me like while I was standing. Adam's getting interviewed. The girls are getting interviewed. Cameron's gone. I don't know where Cameron went. He was out of there.
He was smart.
He left.
I haven't seen him since.
But we're going through this whole thing, and I just remember like trying to talk the officers that were holding me like out of the situation. I'm like, hey, guys, this is not fun. we should get Taco Bell instead. I'll buy if you guys. And they were just kind of cracking up, like, what is happening?
How would you not die, dude? How would it not be the funniest thing ever if you're a cop to see that and no one gets hurt?
There was the thing. No one got hurt. It wasn't like a harsh situation. But the thing that did suck was that they did take me to the hospital instead of to jail. Because the officers were convinced that I was overdosing. Because he asked me, he was like, hey, how old are you? I'm like, I'm 7. And I couldn't say teen. I couldn't figure it out. And that was all Adam wanted, was for me to figure out how to say 17. That would have avoided so many things. He could have been like, he's drunk, we're taking him home. I don't know. But no, I couldn't say 17. So I told the officer I was 7. They ended up calling my parents and saying, your son's in critical condition. We don't know if he's going to make it. It was a whole horrible thing.
Oh boy.
I get handcuffed to a hospital bed because I'm trying to leave the hospital because I don't want to be there. It's not fun. Yeah. And they found 2 Adderall pills in my pocket because I have ADD and I take Adderall, or I did at the time. I don't anymore. And they were like, how many of these have you taken? And I said, 17. So I was finally able to say 17. Like, he's gonna die. He's literally gonna die.
So he's 17 and he's 7 and he took 17 pills.
I took 3 hits of acid and 17 Adderall pills. And so they're all sure that I'm dead. And I mean, it was that's essentially the story of my family came. I obviously didn't die. There's more that happened and more emotional things that happened. My parents were not okay. I was not okay. I lost my car for 2 months. Lost my phone for a month. It was so much. But it was all, like, I think, reasonable reactions on my parents' part. So
yeah, and in the song now,
yeah,
we've decided to commemorate the story. Evening,
yeah,
just through the new single, which.
I'm sorry, say that again.
So we've decided to commemorate this evening
yes.
through the new single.
Yes, we have. So kind of like to bring it back, I've kind of been told for a long time through different peers and girlfriends and family friends and church friends, like, that I should be kind of ashamed of that story. I think it's hilarious and I love it. And I went through a mental thing in it that I think helped shape even the way that I kind of am now. Before, I really felt like, as especially a young teenager going through life, you feel like the world and life is your movie and everyone else is a support character. You care none for other people, and it's just like everyone's here for you. You're bouncing off of them, but everything's happening for you. I unwound that for myself, and I'd reconvinced myself that I'd made up every relationship, every interaction. All of it was fake. I'm just a weird consciousness that's carrying around a piece of plastic and pretending to talk to people through it. So I'd gone through insanity, came back out of insanity, and I was like, oh my gosh, people are also feeling the same way I'm feeling. We all feel like we're living our own movie and everyone's a support character. I should treat people better. So it was like a weird positive thing that came out of it for me. But I was always told, like, be ashamed. You shouldn't talk about that. Don't talk about that. So for us, crossing this line as a band and as like a rock pop group, doing a song about acid, especially growing up in church and growing up listening to Christian bands and country music, and then being introduced to things so late, this just felt like a natural, like, yeah, that's what we're going to do. We're going to write a song about acid. And it was great.
So when's it out for everybody to hear?
It is currently being, the final mix is getting done right now. And it'll probably be done by the time the podcast is released. But we have to get the songs mastered. I don't know if this is going to be the first or the second single, but the record label, they heard the song as a demo. They're like, go back to the studio. This has to be on the record. We love this. The entire office loves this. It's going to be awesome. Go back and do it. So we did it, put all of our instrumentation to it, and it should be out in the next couple of months.
And where can, this is the time.
It's probably going to be, on Spotify along with our podcast.
Yeah, right next to it. We can tag into it. Where does everybody find Hounds?
Oh, you can find us houndssounds.com. It just links you to everything. So it's like Hounds Sounds is our handle, so if you can find us on that, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all the stuff, yeah.
All those. And you got a show, this won't be up prior.
Yeah.
You got any shows on the other side of February 1st?
Sure, we're going to be doing more stuff in St. Louis in late March, so just keep an eye.
Hey, this is a national/international podcast,
yeah.
So feel free. I mean, coming to a theater near you.
Coming to a theater near you. We are going to be, we're working on finishing up agencies and getting stuff solidified with touring agents, so hopefully very soon you'll find us all across the country.
Have your parents forgiven you for taking 3 hits of acid and shaming them?
Yes, absolutely. Since then, actually, it's my mom's favorite song. I don't know. So she loves it.
It's one of those deals, like, as a parent, I would imagine in that moment, you freak out and you think, oh my God, because you know how many things could have gone wrong.
Yeah.
And you're scared, is this going to be something new? Like, because you don't know at that point, like, it was as simple as trying to figure out how a psychedelic works and trying something and putting yourself out there and doing something new, and you did it in a really dumb way because you're immature. But from a parent's standpoint, you're scared to death. Is this a one-time thing? Is this a three-time thing? Is this like he's going to be living underneath the bridge doing, acid and, selling himself for, canned goods? Where is this going? So, like, even as you age and you look back on that, you understand, like, it wasn't necessarily the wrong reaction that your parents were so freaked out, because their one of their jobs is to protect you.
Yeah.
And they love you so much, and they know how much potential you have. And anything outside of that comfortable parameter freaks you out, because you're like, this thing is so important to me, and if anything goes wrong to it, I don't know really what I do from here. But it also created this incredible moment that you can learn from, because me and you have had other conversations, and just the amount of understanding you got from that situation based on being 17, being in a very conservative area in St. Charles, Missouri, in a tight-knit community. We're not Manhattan, we're Cottleville. It's like 7 square miles. Everyone knows pretty much everyone, and there's a lot of things that go in with that. And so when you make an error like that and you get the feedback from everyone around you from these constructive or constrictive things, how did that force you to grow within that moment? Other than the shame that you felt or the fear that you felt for disappointing people, that had to have been a massive growing experience for you to make that mistake, feel everything that came with that, and open your eyes to kind of...
I just think the biggest mistake was that was treating it as if it was this huge mistake.
Yeah.
Like, really, that's really what it comes down to. Is like, it's just, okay, that happened. I was talking to my dad just this last week. We were in LA, and we were there for a convention called the NAMM Show, and we've got just companies. It's like guitar companies, manufacturers for pedals. And for those of you that don't know what NAMM is, it's just basically a musician's Toys R Us.
It's a sponsorship showcase, basically.
Yeah, and so we worked with some of the people that have been sponsoring us for the last, year and a half, 2 years, and we've developed relationships with. It's like the people that make all my guitar pedals and guitars and amps, and we've developed awesome relationships with those people. We came back out, we've been playing the last 3 NAMM shows, and while we were there, we went to this after party that was happening, and we're looking and listening to musicians that we didn't think that we would have ever met. And we're in a weird party room with all these old school cars and drinks and just fun. And I looked over and I'm talking to my dad. I'm like, can you believe that we're here right now? This is the same kid that did acid at 17. Look at what we're doing right now. And our single,
that's almost why you're
our
here.
single is the reason, the single that the label's excited about is about that day. Did you ever think that this was going to be the result of that? And he's like, I was so stressed out and like weirdly broken that day, but I can't believe the things that have happened, and I think that it's beautiful. So it's just like, it's weird to be able to look back at it with like 20/20 vision and go, that had to happen.
I mean, that's just about anything in the moment.
Sure.
Everything hurts.
Yeah.
Everything hurts. So, life hurts, but when you look back on it, hindsight's 20/20, man, it doesn't hurt so bad in the rear view. And because of that, I mean, I've seen that look that your dad probably had when he got to the hospital.
Oh, yeah.
On my own father when I was in a car accident, and he comes bolting out of his truck towards the accident scene. It's the same look that you've never seen before. I remember totaling a car, I mean, pretty bad. Flipped it end over end a couple of times on a country road. And it's right by our house. My dad, pulls up, and I knew one of the firemen, and I told the fireman, don't let him near me. I don't want to, because I thought he was angry. I thought he was coming out of that. No, dude, that look of anger and that look of concern are very, very similar looks on a father. And
it was fear.
Yeah, and I've experienced,
anger, it was
I've experienced
fear.
that now as a father as well. Like not to nearly to the extent of like, is my child alive? But it's that same thing. You're caught in the second, and in the rear view, your dad is like, probably without saying it, like, it sucked at the time.
Yeah.
But, from paying Kmart, and
Sure.
that art could be what lands you in a totally different situation. So well done. So
To close it up, I would like to say that I have small group now where we're reading a very, very good book called Falling Upwards by Richard Rohr, and I've got like 4 couples that we're gonna go through chapters 2 and 3, and I've now taken 3 hits of acid, and I'm going over there, and we're going to see what happens because I had to.
That's amazing.
because I got to. So Jordan, I appreciate you coming in tonight, man. This
Thank
has
you,
been
guys.
great. I didn't know Jordan from Adam. Outside of once I might have talked to him here, we don't know.
Right.
But dude, as this thing continues to pick up steam, I think after on the other side of the tour, it'd be great to have you back.
Let's do it.
Be sure to check everybody. Be sure to check out houndsounds.com and all the accompanying handles that go with it. And I appreciate it, man.
Thank you so much for having me, guys.
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to the Two Pines and a Prayer podcast. Be sure to like, rate, and subscribe. Also, check out our blog over at twopinesprayer.com. That's the number 2, pinesprayer.com.